welcome to our first edition of what we're calling Kingdom Business. And it's an exciting time for us at Central Missions International. We're involved in a lot of kingdom work in a lot of different places. And we wanted to start this video series that would not just simply promote Central Missions International, although we would love to have you as a partner working with us, but more so to explain some perspectives that we have about kingdom business and our involvement with it all over the world, and how every Christian needs to be involved in the business of God's kingdom. And so we're going to approach this from a lot of different angles. And I hope you'll see in this first one, which is very personal, because I'm going to kind of tell you how God brought me to this place, to this time, to do what I'm doing through Central Missions International. And it's quite a story, at least it is to me, because I can see now, looking back in my life, how God was at work all these years to prepare me, to help me to understand the importance of doing what I do through CMI. So let's begin this first edition with a prayer. Father God, I come to you today thanking you so much for those who are joining us online, those who will be watching this video at another time. I pray, Father, for them. I pray that you will give them a vision for your business around the world. I pray, Father, that they will have an enthusiasm and an excitement about just knowing about what you're doing. Father, your work is so dynamic, and I'm so grateful to be a part of it, and to wake up every day and to know that we're going to partner together in this tremendous work of getting the gospel out to the entire world, and to help people who are in such desperate need. And I pray, Father, that this will be contagious, that people will be excited about getting involved themselves. And so, Father, I dedicate these videos to you and to the furtherance of your kingdom on this earth. And I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, again, thank you for joining us. And I want to kind of give you a little bit of history of where it all began for me. I grew up in South Georgia. I grew up in a little community called Dasher, Georgia, which is about 7 miles south of Valdosta, Georgia, which is about 12 miles from the Florida line. So when I grew up on a dirt road in the country in a very small house that, looking back, was maybe not much more than a shack. It didn't have a lot of creature comforts in this house. In fact, we didn't even have a bathroom in this house until I was 10 years old. We had an outhouse, and we had an open well that we drew water from. And so I know you're thinking, wow, what humble beginnings I had. Well, I suppose compared to many people, it was a little humbling, but I didn't know it at the time. We had everything that we needed. And I had parents that loved me and a couple of brothers. And but right down the dirt road, about 2 miles, was a community called Dasher. And I spent a lot of my growing up years in that little community. And when you kind of go down the main street, and there weren't too many streets in Dasher, when you go down the main street, on one side of the street was Georgia Christian School. It originally was started in 1914 by my grandfather and some other men in the community who decided they wanted a Christian school for their children to go to school. And so they named it Dasher Bible School. By the time I went to school there, it was called Georgia Christian School. And I started there in first grade and went all the way through school at Georgia Christian School. So I spent a lot of time on that side of the road in classes and sports activities, in playtime, and just so many things that we did centered around the school. And then on the other side of the street was the church where I was a part of, my family was a part of, called the Dasher Church of Christ. And so my life was pretty much contained to what went on around my home, what went on in the school, what went on in the church. Obviously, we went to Valdosta occasionally, and that was a big deal sometimes as a little boy to even get to go to Dairy Queen or something like that. But I remember growing up, sitting in the services at the church, and probably about every couple of years, there would be some missionaries from Africa who would come and make their reports to the church, because we supported a couple of missionaries, as I remember, in Africa. And they would come and they would bring their slide presentations and they would show pictures. And I just remember as a little boy feeling the adventure of mission work, what it would be like to go to Africa, what it would be like to be in that environment. It just seemed so exotic to me. And I always was filled with a sense of adventure. I grew up reading books like The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn or Tom Sawyer. I grew up reading books like Journey to the Center of the Earth, or just all the adventure books, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And I even kind of envisioned myself as being a little bit like Zorro, swooping in to save the day and riding off on your horse and all of that. So it was pretty easy for me to get my imagination going, thinking of what it would be like in all these countries that I was hearing about sitting there. And so it just stuck in my memory of just what a great life that would be. I imagined it would. Well, if you fast forward to probably my junior year in high school, I was asked to go and start preaching for a small congregation in Madison, Florida. And my brother and his wife would go down with me. They would actually drive and take me down. I don't even think I had a car then. I think I had my driver's license, but I didn't have a car. And they would drive down, and we would spend the morning, and I would preach and he would lead. And so because I was working a little bit in that community, there was an African-American brother in Valdosta who knew about what I was doing, and he wanted to plant a black church in Madison, Florida, and he asked me if I would help him. Well, I had no idea what I was doing, but I thought that would be an adventure. Let's go plant a church. And we went and we pitched a tent, and we invited a preacher to come in, and we invited people from the community to come, and the church was started. And I thought, this is really neat. And I don't think I had a lot to do with all of that, but I got to be there. And then when I was 18, I started traveling to Douglas, Georgia, and I would preach a couple of times on Sundays. And then when I graduated from high school, our commencement exercise was done by a man named Otis Gatewood. And Otis Gatewood was a missionary. He lived in Vienna, Austria, and he had a large, big Cadillac. And he would pack that Cadillac full of Bibles, Bibles that were in Polish and Russian and different languages of the people that lived behind the Iron Curtain. And this was, of course, 1971, before the wall fell, and it was illegal to smuggle Bibles into Russia and Poland and these places. And so he preached a sermon at this graduation that said, "Go east, young man." And it was a great sermon because he was trying to excite us young people about mission work and doing something for God in some of these countries. And I thought that would be so neat. And he came to me after that service and he said, "Rod, why don't you come with me and go to Vienna, Austria? I'll train you how to smuggle Bibles into the Soviet Union." And again, that sounded like it's a neat adventure for me. But I decided I better go to college. And so I did. I went off to Harding University and got involved there. But before I actually went, we took a trip right after graduation. Our choral group teamed up with another choral group out of Dayton, Ohio, and we traveled to Europe. And this was the first time I had been out of the United States. We traveled to Europe and we visited 5 countries in Europe. And it was so neat. We went to London and we went to Amsterdam, and we went to Frankfurt, Germany, and we went to Switzerland, and we also went to Paris, France. And I remember going up in the Eiffel Tower and looking out over that massive city, the largest city I've ever seen in my life. And I've been to Atlanta and Nashville, Tennessee, and I think I even went to Detroit, Michigan once. But this city just really blew me away. And I remember standing there on the Eiffel Tower looking over the city and thinking, there is a lot of lost people in this world, and I need to do something about it. And I remember praying and saying, God, what are you going to do about it? And I really kind of thought he kind of put the question back to me and said, well, what are you going to do about it? And I felt really convicted then that I needed to do something to spread the gospel into the world. I didn't know what that was. The next summer, I went back again to Europe in 1972. It was an internship from Harding University, and me and a buddy of mine, Mike Root, and I spent 6 weeks in 2 different cities in Holland. And we, teamed up with a group that came from Harding, and we did ministry work there for 6 weeks. And again, that got me excited about doing something outside the States. But I knew Holland wasn't for me. The language was just too difficult. I'm not very good at languages. I'm not very good at English, but do the best I can from South Georgia. But I just remember that excited me again about reaching people all over the world. In fact, the first person I ever personally baptized, was on that trip in 1972. And it was a young lady. Her name was Tina Courthouse. And I baptized her in the North Sea off the coast of Holland. And it was just an amazing time. And so somewhere during this particular period of time, there was a lot of things going on in planting churches in Georgia, because there were several counties, lots of counties actually, that did not have a Church of Christ in that county. And so churches all over the state were beginning to catch the momentum and the movement of God to plant churches in all of these places. And so in 1973, that summer, I came back and spent the summer working in the Dasher Church of Christ. And they asked me if I would go and head up a team that would evangelize in Clinch County, Georgia, and plant a church there. Well, again, I didn't exactly know what I was doing, but I did it. And we went and we knocked on all the doors, and it was a fun time. I won't go into all the details, but a church was actually planted there. I preached the first sermon in that church, and today the Homerville Church of Christ is there. I was going through there one time. I got off the beaten path and went and saw the building where they meet. And that, of course, got me pretty enthused again about mission work. And so it was something that I think God was preparing me and putting a kind of a vision and a fire in my bones to do something like this. So back to Harding University, there was a number of us young men most of us were preacher students, and we decided that we wanted to go and do something somewhere in the world together as a team. We didn't know where to go. We prayed, we talked, and finally we decided we wanted to go to the Tidewater area of Virginia. And because there was a lot of military bases there, and we wanted to evangelize on those military bases, convert as many people as possible, let Uncle Sam send them out all over the world to reach their fellow armed forces people, Navy, Army, Marines, and also evangelize among the local populations if they had an opportunity to do that. And then we would mentor them and disciple them long distance and then help them to establish churches in these places. We thought it was a great plan. And, God would use the United States to send missionaries out all over the world. Well, the team didn't quite gel and come together like we thought it would. Now, after I got through with graduate school, my wife and I, Brenda, we did go to the Tidewater area, and we lived in Norfolk and Virginia Beach. And during that time, our first child was born, a daughter. And during that year and a half, almost 2 years that we stayed in Norfolk, Virginia, we saw 35 people come to Christ, and we saw just amazing work that was done. But when the team just didn't get there, we decided we needed to do something else because it wasn't a work that one person could probably do. So I came to Florida, stayed for a couple of years in Pompano Beach, Florida, made some friends, went to Homestead, and ran a Christian school for a couple of years. And then I moved to Delray Beach, Florida, and stayed there for 10 years. While I was in Delray Beach, there was a man who came from a little country called Haiti. Now, I don't remember up until that time even knowing where Haiti was. It wasn't on my radar. But he came through town. He needed a place to stay. He was on his way to Tennessee to see someone there about the work in Haiti. And so we put him up for the night, and then I began to inquire about, well, what is this work in Haiti all about? And he came back through town on his way back to Haiti, and we talked some more. Well, one thing led to another, and it led to me making my first trip to Haiti. Well, things didn't quite work out with this particular man. I won't go into detail about what happened with him, but God put me in touch with another very young man. He was in his 20s, and he started a congregation with about 12 people, and I was there for one of the first services that met for this new church that was being planted in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. And I remember the excitement, the enthusiasm, and it didn't take long for this church to start growing. And some other people came and helped from the States, and a building was bought, and they moved their location to this new building. And they grew and grew and grew until this church was the size of about 2,000 members. And they started planting churches all over Haiti. And I got to be involved in that and did so many workshops and seminars, and probably made 40 trips to Haiti, helped start a school of preaching that has trained hundreds of men and women in service to God. And that was one of the greatest works that I've ever been a part of. And still today am a part of that work with my brother Jean Robert St. Hilaire. And now we see Haitian churches in various parts of the world, even in Paris, France, where I stood and prayed and was convicted about the lost of the world. It came full circle, and now there is a church in Paris, France, a Haitian church there. And so all of this was going on, and then after 10 years in Delray Beach, I moved to Sarasota, Florida. And in Sarasota, Florida, it was 2011. I met John Robert in about 1986. And then in 2011, and again, all that time from 86 to 2011, even beyond, even till today, I've stayed involved in that work in Haiti. But in 2011, there was a tragic accident in Sarasota that claimed the lives of 4 young people. And I was the chaplain for the Sarasota County Fire Department at the time, and they called me to the scene, and they shut down the entire neighborhood until they could work this accident and rescue, to get these kids out of this car. They were all passed away. There was a lady who lived in this community, and typically someone would come and pick her up and take her to church. But they couldn't get into the neighborhood that day. And so she just started walking. And she was walking down one of the streets there, and one of our members from the church saw her walking, pulled over, and said, "Could I take you somewhere?" Because it was pretty hot outside. And she said, "Well, I'm just looking for a church to attend this morning." She said, "Well, I'm going to church. You can come with me." And she said, "Fine." So she came to our church. Her name is Osumba Benson. And Osumba was born in Kenya, Africa. And she was an American citizen. She had worked in the airline industry, and she was retired and supporting an orphanage in Oyugis. I didn't even know how to say it at the time. Oyugis, Kenya, which is in the western part of Kenya. And so one thing led to another. We studied the Bible together. I baptized her, and we started supporting that orphanage. And from 2011 until now, we have been supporting that orphanage. And we provide the operating expenses for that orphanage. It has 50 children in it, and it has 250 more children who come and study in the school that they've started. And so it's just a marvelous work. And one thing led to another. We planted a church there at Joshua Village, and then from there we helped plant another church, and then I think there's 2 more churches that we're in the process of planting. They're in the infancy now, and we connected with some other preachers in other areas, and now we have probably about 10 preachers that we work with on a regular basis, and a lot more preachers that we also disciple and do classes with online, and this has turned into a very big work. And so God has taken us from that very early beginning of when I was a little boy sitting in a church pew in Dasher, Georgia, listening to missionaries from Africa tell their wonderful stories about the spread of the gospel. And now, after 3 trips to Africa myself, and all this work almost every day, in fact, I can say every day, I'm in touch with people in Africa. And now our work has expanded to Pakistan. We do a little bit of work in India. And so God is just blessing our work tremendously. But I tell you all this to say, God has it's God's heart to see the world won for Jesus Christ. It was Jesus who said, "Go into all the world, preach the gospel to every creature." He's not changed his mind. That commission is still there, and it's still kingdom business. It's still the business of the church to do that for Christian people, to make sure that the gospel goes out to the ends of the earth, to the uttermost parts of the earth, the Bible says. And there's so many wonderful works. When you're kind of in this phase of kingdom business, you find out about all kinds of things that are going on all over the world. And I'm just amazed at how God does so much. And it seems sometimes he does so much with so little resources that we add to this. And so we rely obviously on people like you who see the value in what we're doing, and how God is using us to spread the borders of the kingdom. And we're looking for partners, donors, people who will get involved with us. We have an intercessory prayer team that we just started, and we would love to see you become a part of that prayer team. There's so many ways in which you could be involved, and we would just love to be able to tell you more about the mission work of Central Missions International. Now, one of the things I want to do before I forget, please, if you're seeing this video, please follow us, subscribe, like it, whatever you can do, share it with other people, and let's build a following. Because again, it's not just going to be about, and we're not going to do this all the time, about raising money. You're not going to hear me beating that drum too much, but I will remind you that we do need funds, and occasionally that we will highlight those things that we're doing and need special contributions. But really, this is about helping us catch a vision for kingdom business. And regardless of who you are, where you are, what you're doing, if you're a Christian, you need to be a part of that. God designed it that way. God wants you to be a part of it. And so we're going to encourage you to do that every time we meet. And so I just would ask you to join us. We will post these things on a regular basis, probably about at least once a week. And everyone's going to be just different. And everyone's going to give you a whole different perspective. One of the things I hope to do is to have some interviews, to bring some people who are actually on the front lines in the field and to bring them online and interview them. And they don't have to be just people. Bring them on screen so you could hear their stories as well. Because again, we're not in competition. We're not in competition with anybody. We're just trying to do God's work. And so please continue to join us and let's work together to bless people and to glorify God. And so I leave you with this video. God bless.